This is Sharmila. I'm a motion graphic designer. Today, I'm going to teach you this cool shape morphing animations. I took this graphic from freepik.com and selected a few of the elements to animate. First of all, these coffee beans to be transformed as a coffee paper cup. Create a new Illustrator file, copy those coffee beans here, ungroup them, separate them into different layers by selecting the layer, clicking here and click on Release to Layer Sequence. Now select all the sublayers, drag them out to make them separate layers, and now delete this empty layer. Rename the layers. Copy this coffee mug also to this Illustrator composition into your new layer. And I am hiding the bean layers for now. Ungroup and separate the layers similarly. Deleting the empty layer. Rename the layers. Separate these fumes to separate layer and rename them as well. We have everything in separate layers. Save this file. Now let's take this to After Effects. Create a new After Effects composition. I am naming this comp as Transition and giving it a white background color. Import the Coffee Illustrator file into it. Make sure that you check Composition Retain Layer Sizes. Give this a white background for better visibility. Now we are going to animate these coffee beans. I am first creating a solid with this brown color. Select all the bean layers and give it a fill effect and fill it with white color. Change the composition to a square. I am making it 1050 by 1050 comp. Lock the background layer. I am selecting one bean, keyframing the starting position, move 30 frames ahead and move the bean's position. Make the path a little curvy. Give them ease. I am using Motion V2 plugin. You can also ease them manually by moving these curves. Duplicate this bean layer and move it to a different position. Again, duplicate this and do the same multiple times. We have this animation now with changing positions. Now I'm going to animate their rotation too. Also, I want one of the bean to remain at the center position. So duplicate it and remove the end position keyframe. I have this animation now. I'm also going to make their sizes random. To give ease to the rotation of the beans, select all the bean layers, press U to open the keyframes. Select all keyframes and give ease. Now open the coffee mug label layer for reference. I fill the reference layer with the red color for better visibility. Go back to the background shape layer, keyframe its path, move 30 frames ahead and move the vertices to coincide with our reference layer. Switch off the reference layer and now we have this animation. Move the bean to the center of this frame and scale it a little like our reference layer. And switch off the reference layer back. I am adjusting the timing of this zoom out layer. Now I'm switching on my glass and lid layers. Make the glass layer as shape layer by selecting the layer, right click and create shapes from vector layer. Keyframe the scale. We are going to scale in Y direction alone and move to the starting position and scale it in Y direction to around 40. Now we have this animation. Now let's make a little elastic animation here. Move 20 frames ahead and create another keyframe here. Come back to previous keyframe and increase the Y scale. Mess around with these keyframes to set a perfect timing. Now switch on the layer, see lid 1 and that has to start coming up right from here. Create initial keyframes for position and rotation here. Move 30 frames ahead, create keyframes, come back to the starting position, move it up like this and rotate. Ease them. Move ahead 10 frames and create another keyframe for rotation. Move ahead again and another rotation and position. Adjust the keyframes. Keyframe the opacity. Now switch on the seal lid 2 layer. The animation of this layer must start right here. Now move 30 frames ahead and create a keyframe for its position. Come back to the beginning of the layer and lower the position of lid and keyframe it. And adjust the timing. I want the lid endpoints to be long so that it gets a little room to bounce the lid. For that, just create shape layer from vector layer, keyframe the path here, move front on the timeline and extend the path by moving these vertices. Reveal the coffee fume layer. Now I'm going to create a new shape layer and trace it. Remove the fill and give it a stroke. Adjust the path and copy the color. Give it a trim paths effect. Give keyframes to start and end with values 100 and 100 initially. Move ahead and change the values to 0 and 0. Now offset the keyframes and ease the keyframes. Duplicate this layer. Move it. Again, duplicate these two layers and move them to make continuous fumes. Now select these four layers and pre-compose them and name them as waves. Duplicate this wave layer and move it to here. Again, duplicate it and move it. Let me time stretch these wave layers to make it a little slower animation. I actually want to start animating them at the same time. Now, I want a shape transformation to this graphic. Copy it and create a new Illustrator document and paste it there. Ungroup. Release two layer sequence. Select all the sublayers and drag them out. I have everything in separate layers now. Hide the fumes layer, we don't need it. Rename all the layers. And save it as coffee mug 2. Go back to our After Effects file, import the mug 2 Illustrator file here, open it and change the composition background to white. Come back to our main comp and I'm going to delete all the unused layers just to avoid confusion from too many layers. I'm going to start animation from this label shape layer. Place the coffee mug layer under this for reference. Scale it to coincide with our present illustration. Solo select this label shape layer and reference coffee mug layer. Initially reduce the opacity of this layer to see through the reference layer. Now keyframe the path and move vertices. Now I want the coffee bean to disappear as the label animates. I am keyframing its opacity value to 0 to do that. I am going to animate this top lid part now. Reduce the opacity to see the reference in the background. Create shapes from vector layer. We are now animating its path. Keyframe the path, move ahead in the timeline and move the vertices to coincide with our coffee mug reference. Increase the opacity back to 100 and let's see how it's animate. Looks like there were keyframes created here, just delete them. This looks good. Now we need to animate the cup. Let's solo select it. Create a shape layer and trace it. Remove the fill, I just need the stroke. Cut the layer to exactly where we need the shape morph animation to start. Now let's animate the path. Keyframe it here. Switch on the reference coffee mug layer. We need to animate these edges curvy. For that, I'm going to add some extra points here with a pen tool. Here, here, here and here. Now move the points to coincide with the reference layer. Use the convert vertex tool to make these edges round. Now let's animate this thing to the top. Create a new shape layer, draw this cap. Give it fill and remove stroke. Now animate its path and position. Move this app. Try to completely close it. And here we get this interesting animation. Make a little jump by changing the position. Now let's animate this to this jar or whatever it is called. I'm just calling it jar. Ungroup it and release it to layers. Select all sublayers and drag them out. Now we have everything in separate layers. Let's rename them. Call them whatever you feel right to identify them. Save the file as jar. Now import it to the After Effects file. Also export this jar illustration as PNG. Import the PNG image here for the reference. Scale it. Give it a red fill for better visibility. Let me select the cup layer. Place this reference layer below it. Place the timeline header at the last keyframe. Cut the layer here by pressing Ctrl Shift D. Go to its path. See the reference once again. We need to move the vertices upwards here. Oh, move this keyframe. Copy this keyframe and paste it on this path. Now we have this animation. Now go back to the reference image. Let's animate this line here with this. Cut this layer here at the last keyframe. Keyframe path and position at that point. Now let's animate this cap. Keyframe path and position. Move ahead in timeline. Change the position to up. Move the path. Now we have this animation. We don't need these fumes anymore. We can cut them when the morphing starts. Right here. Now I want to animate these two lines here. Create a new shape layer. Draw a line. Coincide it with the reference. Increase the stroke. Change the color. Duplicate the layer. Move it up. Here is what we got, and I need these lines to appear from this point. Cut it by pressing Alt open brace. Looks good. Let's animate the lines now. Cut the layer where you want the animation to start. Keyframe the path and position. Move ahead in the timeline and start moving the layer up. Now change the path by moving vertices. Now I get this animation. Let's animate this liquid path now. Create a path keyframe here and the position keyframe. Now change the path. For this wavy curve, add a vertex point on this path with pen tool and make a curve with convert vertex tool. We have this now. We need this line now. Create a new shape layer. Rename it as line. Now draw the line tracing the reference image. Animate at this point. Create a path keyframe. Move this vertex point up. And for this liquid, we will animate it as if it is filling in. Select the path and move the vertices multiple times, making new keyframes. We got this now. So what else we need? The mouth, handle and the stand at the bottom. Go to the jar layers now. Copy the mouth, handle and bottom layers, paste them here. Position and scale them properly according to the reference image. For that, create a null object to all those three layers. Scale the null object and move it You can delete the null layer now. Go to the mouth layer, keyframe the position right here, move it to below the jar. Now create a shape layer on top of it and we are going to make an alpha matte. Let's animate this bottom layer now. Keyframe position and rotate. Move up. Rotate a -10 and +10 here. Now I'm creating a new shape layer for giving the bottom layer an alpha matte. We have this animation now. The last step is to animate this handle the same way. Create a keyframe for the position. Move it. Now draw a shape layer on top of it to give it an alpha matte. Now we have this transformation of shapes. As a final touch, expand this path to full screen. I am doing this because we had the whole animation started with a full screen brown solid and we are ending it the same way so that we get a looping animation. So hope you all enjoyed the tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions and I would like to see your works as well. And let's have a discussion about your design problems. Thank you.